Catholic Church throughout the United States celebrates Respect Life Month. And the first Sunday in particular is Respect Life Sunday. And so today we want to ask the Lord to open our hearts to receive his message of love for life and for the gift of human life. And especially maybe just in accord with our psalm, right, to, if we hear the Lord's voice, to harden not our hearts, but to allow that each human life is willed and loved into existence by God. I'm always reminded of the Psalm 139, you formed my inmost being, and you knit me in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am wonderfully and fearfully made. Now, we know that even from that, the Lord, our dignity is so good that our Lord took on our flesh himself to come and dwell among us, to offer his life for our redemption. And so Christ reveals the profound dignity of each of us, of each human person in this world. And this God-given dignity does not change with our stage of life or our abilities, our level of independence, or any other varying circumstance in our world. It's rooted permanently and perfectly in the fact that we're made in the image and likeness of God and created to share in his very life for all eternity. And as a matter of fact, John Paul II said, the human person is a manifestation of God in the world, right? As we're in his image and likeness, we are a manifestation of God in this world, a sign of his presence and a trace of his glory. And we have to reflect on that reality to make sure we know how to act and treat one another, right? It's because it's from that beautiful gift of life, of being in God's image and likeness. And so we recognize that that also makes us, in some ways, responsible for one another. As we go back to Cain and Abel, right? One of them that killed the brother also mentioned that, am I really responsible for my brother? And of course, the Lord implies that we are. So in the encyclical John Paul wrote called The Gospel of Life back in 1995, he recognized then, as now, a full range of threats against human life, from poverty and malnutrition, murder and war. And he places a particular emphasis, though, on those threats at the beginning and end of life, precisely when we're in most need of protection. So in modern times, children in their mother's wombs and those approaching the end of their lives are certainly what Jesus called in Matthew 25 the least of these, at least in our world's estimation. And so practices such as abortion and assisted suicide tragically reject the truth that human life is always to be cherished and defended with loving concern. Now, our culture in particular has diverted from a culture of life by continued rhetoric and lies, and they have increased in these recent years. And one of the most harmful that I see today, and that I wanted to discuss in the media and online, is that the pro-life position is merely anti-abortion, not caring about women and the children past the time of birth. That is a false narrative, often ingrained in our own minds, because honestly, lies have to be spoken very loudly and repeatedly to take any effect in this world, whereas the truth resonates deep in our heart. And so that's why many times it's so loud and repeated so often. And so it often works too much. And so to share with you the truth of the church and how she runs countless ministries to support women, children, and families throughout all stages of life. For instance, there's a new initiative that was started by the USCCB this summer, and it seeks to bring all of the resources needed throughout our lives together in one place to help those in need. This initiative is called Walking with Moms in Need. It's nationwide in every diocese and in every deanery throughout every diocese in our country. And you can find it on our website as well. And it brings together many different resources for people in need. Physical needs, medical and mental health needs, pregnancy needs, and spiritual needs in our area. So if we speak with someone and we need some of these resources in whatever way, we'll have them there at our fingertips so that we can provide real support. but most importantly, that you'll be walking with them with your loving presence and care, that they matter. And we should strive also to reverse in the hearts and minds of others that the lie that motherhood is debilitating and unimportant. It is a great gift to our world. And each woman in her own way is called to share the gift of motherhood, whether they be physical, emotional, or spiritual, or all together. And the world often portrays this as menial and to be avoided. And it's widely known in our studies nowadays that by the age of 45, as many as 1 in 3 women have had an abortion, and obviously a similar number of men and family members have been involved. And so the church must never fail to proclaim and offer God's message of forgiveness, of hope, of healing after someone has participated in this. No matter how serious the sin, and that goes for all of us in any situation, right? No matter how serious the sin is committed, God offers forgiveness and reconciliation. His mercy is endless, right? There's no sin too big for God to forgive. And there are many times that all of us have probably felt that. Like whatever sin it was that we were struggling with is too big for God, right? That's never true. That's always a lie. God is always ready to forgive us and to begin the process of healing in our own hearts. And so I invite anyone here today to reach out to me if you've ever thought that, if you've experienced that, or come across any of these things. Reach out to me. I'm happy and would be honored to help you experience God's love and his merciful care. And I just happen to be one of the priests of the diocese that when someone calls them, they send a post-abortive woman to me to begin a process of healing and forgiveness. And honestly, I found that ministry to be most rewarding as a priest. And I've learned quite a bit about the very deep and real anguish that these women experience in making that decision. So many of them have experienced fear of rejection or fear of judgment by family, friends, or even the church. The real problems that some women face in poverty and abuse, or hearing a life-limiting prenatal diagnosis, or even the pressure of coercion of family, friends, or medical professionals. So many have felt, however wrong, in their situation that abortion was their only choice. Now, what is needed in all of these situations is what I'm discussing with us today: compassionate witness to love and life. We must be ready to accompany those that we come into contact with, to share these life-giving options that are available in the church and in our communities. Again, on the website, we have this Walking with Moms in Need, which covers all kinds of available support throughout these situations, and especially if one is facing a crisis pregnancy. This is a powerful and important way for us to live, for each of us to step up and to love in a concrete and tangible way. In so many ways, the church, we as the church, are supposed to seek to bring light, healing, and hope into this world, to be a witness to the beauty of life, and proactively build a culture of life. Our loving defense of the most vulnerable, the unborn and their mothers, continually overflows also into the love and respect for those whose life, whose dignity and freedom are violated by injustice and indifference, right? It flows out into every situation. The church must work to build a society that looks to the future with hope, right? One that is where a woman is never coerced or forced to choose between her future and the life of her child. I want to share a final story with you, just a personal one, that proclaims the beauty of all persons. So it was about 30 years ago. My father used to work with this gentleman who at that time was in his late 40s, and both him and his wife, and they found out that they were expecting another child, and that this little one would probably have Down syndrome. So Joe, the father-to-be, talked to my dad about the news and was understandably a little bit worried. Joe and his wife never considered abortion as an option, but Joe was worried because he and his wife were older, and their baby, come to be Jeremy, would need a lot of care throughout his life, and they were worried if they'd be up to the task, especially as they were aging. Now, my dad assured him that, of course, he's already a great father, that he would continue to be a great father, and that God would provide all that he needed for that situation. And my dad still talks to Joe monthly, even though they live far apart now. And the last time that he talked to Joe, Joe said to my dad, "Do you remember that conversation that we had before Jeremy was born?" He said, "I have to tell you, Brent, my life that I don't understand or remember even what I was worried about, because I couldn't imagine, my wife and I couldn't imagine our life without Jeremy. He's one of the greatest blessings that we've ever been given. Do you know that even to this day, multiple times, Jeremy runs up to me and he looks at me and he says, 'Daddy, I love you so much.' He's like, 'Brent, how could that ever get old? How could that ever be a burden?' Every life is of infinite value because every life is God's gift to this world, each of us, you and I, a gift that we must proclaim and protect in law and fight at every step along life's path, from the moment of conception to natural death. Women and men facing undue pressure to choose against life, they need our help, our accompaniment, and our support. This, my friends, is not an option for the few of us, but a command, because it's the very heart of the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is a gospel of life. It is meant to help us to know that we can love God above all things and to love those in need, especially those most in need. And we're called in this world to make a difference in our own way. So how today will we answer that call? How will you make a difference?